Maybe I'm a little too tall for this stand. Thank you. Anyway, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure and privilege to be part of this panel discussion. Thank you, Mr. Goyal, for the very kind introduction of all the panelists, and you also very beautifully outlined the overall objective of this panel discussion. The panel discussion is on action plan for sustained growth of paper industry and trades in the next decades. Watch the words growth. So we are looking at growth. We are not just looking at growth, we are looking at sustained growth or sustainable growth of not only the paper industry but also the entire industry and trades together. I mean, the one which makes that last mile connectivity to the end customer. We have 9 excellent panelists, chosen extremely well, combination of perhaps energy, experience and expertise, energy of young entrepreneurs, young leaders of this sector, with few experienced people to give us the guidance and expertise. So an extraordinary panel. As I said earlier to them when we had a preliminary discussion, I'll reduce my talk as much as possible, and I would like to facilitate more and more ideas from them. Before I leave the stage to all of them, I have a few requests to the panelists, to request to the audience too. The objective is growth. Objective is action plan. Sector is already growing. We are perhaps about 26-27 million tons last year, growing at about 6 to 7%, maybe about 50 billion tons in next 10 to 12 years of time. The growth will happen. India is growing. The 6% growth will happen. Our objective of this panel discussion should be how to create perhaps a growth of double that of what is perhaps happening. A growth which will be much beyond 50 million ton. There was a panel discussion yesterday at the CII annual regional meeting. We're looking at India at 100. India at 100. What will India be at 100 in the next 25 years? Perhaps I would like to request all the panelists to think about how to go beyond this 6 or 7% of growth of the sector. Maybe 10%, maybe 12%. How to get newer markets. Newer markets in terms of domestic customers, newer markets in terms of international opportunities. I would like to give 1 or 2 examples before I leave the stage to you. The new markets are there in India, are there internationally. There are markets where we can replace existing products with paper. Could be substantial. I would just like to point two opportunities. The packaging sector is something which is growing substantially in the recent times. I'm not talking about the newer emerging e-business where packaging is substantial. A typical old sector, brick and mortar sector like cement. Cement continues to pack about 95% of their material in HDPE bags. There is a potential opportunity if cement in India is growing at a much higher rate, than nearly about 405 million tons, which gets converted, if about 70-75% of cement gets converted to paper, it could be an additional 5 lakh tons per year. This is the amount of opportunity which is there in an Indian brick and mortar sector which is looking for opportunities. Is this sector looking for this opportunity? Yes. There have been enormous pressure on them for getting the packaging material back. Nearly about 5 to 5.5 lakh tons of HDPE is going all over the country. There have been a lot of pressure on them to get it back and recycle in an environmentally sustainable way. So if there is an opportunity to replace it with a more sustainable material, the industry would be more than willing to look at it. So there's an opportunity of 5 lakh tons. Why they aren't doing? Variety of reasons. There are cost differences, one. But there is also an advantage. For example, one of the marketing heads of a large cement plant said, we would save about 80 to 90 grams of cement per bag if we convert from HDPE to paper. But then the cost difference is so high, which some of the customers are not willing to take. So if there is an opportunity for the entire sector to work with one sector and increase the opportunity by nearly about 5 lakh tons, which could be a major market opportunity for you. Second, I was talking to another gentleman from one of the places where paper perhaps originated, from Finland. He was from the Finland recycling industry. One of the points which he mentioned was there has been a substantial change in the way the European market is looking at paper. There are many opportunities for exporters to get into Europe if they are able to meet the environmental sustainability criteria of EU purchasing guidelines. He says that's a major opportunity for Indian paper sector. So there is an opportunity both in India and abroad in terms of newer markets, number one. The second point, sir, so I would request you all to consider beyond 6%, beyond 10%, how to accelerate the growth of the paper sector by looking at newer market. Second, I touched upon it earlier, is looking at environment sustainability. If you look at the top 3 or 4 problems of the world, environment and environment sustainability is one of the major issues. Sustainability of our own operations, of our own paper plants, which of course many of you have done exceedingly well. How to help our users in terms of procuring products which are environmentally sustainable. Just to give you another example, an auto component is a major sector in India which is contributing to the world as a whole, not only Europe, the world as a whole. Auto component industry in India is contributing to the world. One of the auto component manufacturers in South India converted his product into a net zero product. Net zero product. So he's one of the suppliers to a large automobile giant from Europe, Volvo. And he was the first one to create a component, tell them this is a zero carbon component which I am supplying to you. So Volvo has doubled or increased his orders by 2.5 times in comparison to what some of the other Korean or Chinese suppliers have been offering. So he is able to grab a portion of the market from China and Korea for his auto component. So paper sector has got an opportunity by, of course, your operations, you become net zero or environmentally sustainable. Offer a product which has got a zero carbon footprint. Many of us from other industries used to have a byline below their email, please consider environment before printing it. Mr. Sanjay Singh always used to say, please print it if it is made from ITC paper. In many of the CI forums he used to speak. Is there an opportunity for paper sector to project itself? Of course, first is to do and demonstrate that we are net zero, and then project itself as a net zero carbon alternative for the entire sector, for the good of the world. Then there are a large amount of opportunities working on. Maybe should the paper sector look at becoming a net zero carbon sector, all the paper plants in the entire country by next perhaps 20 years or 30 years. India has made a commitment of 2070. There is a good opportunity for Indian paper sector to become net zero, first to start within its operations, and then perhaps through its entire supply chain. If that could be done, or at least we start aspiring for it and start working towards it, I think large amount of markets could open up. This 10% or 12% could be much higher growth could be possible. Many of the other sectors have already started doing it, sir. Many of the cement plants, I saw Mr. K.N. Rao, who spoke to you yesterday at the inaugural session. Cement industry has gone ahead. Many of the cement plants have committed aspirational net zero targets. I understand some of the companies, for their supply chain, they are looking at e-vehicles. E-vehicles for both the mining equipment as well as cement transportation. So many of the other sectors have already started going ahead. Can the sector together take up a net zero target and work towards it? I think that will open up a lot of other opportunities. Thirdly, sir, diversity and inclusion. This is another area, perhaps diversity, inclusion, collaboration. This perhaps another area where perhaps we will have to work. We had two women originally slotted for this session. One of them could not be present here. Is there a way to increase our gender diversity in inclusion in our in the paper sector? Can we include society to be part of the entire initiative? Can society be proud of being associated with the paper manufacturing unit? Can society say, if somebody talks about Tirupati, we all talk of Lord Balaji temple. Can a paper plant which is located in one of the places, could that place be identified because of that paper plant? Is there a way in which we can get the society to be more and more involved with our activities? Is there a way in which we can engage them more deeply? Yesterday there was a panel discussion again in CII where Sania Mirza and Gopi Chand were participating. One of the questions posed to them was, how do we make India a sporting nation? How do we make India a sporting nation by perhaps 2047? Gopi Chand said, all of us go to school to study, perhaps go to work and then spend our time. If every one of us, irrespective of our profession, irrespective of our age, has some component of sport in us, it's not just the medals which make the country a sporting nation. Every one of us, if there is a way in which sports could be part of them, there is a way in which sports could be part of them and sports adds value to their health and well-being, then we ultimately become a sporting nation. Is there a way by which the paper sector can add value, can add well-being to each of the individuals of the country? Then perhaps we would become, I don't know what, a papering nation or a country which substantially is involved with the entire paper sector. Perhaps we should look at more and more collaboration. I'm glad that all of us belonging to the paper sector, Mr. Goyal used the word family, all of us are together to discuss about how to go forward. Majority of the times, some innovations come only when we interact with perhaps people beyond our sector. Dr. Vijay Govindarajan used to say, innovation comes when you interact with the stakeholders who are farthest from you. He used to give the example of Dick Fosbury. I think it's appropriate. Dick Fosbury passed away about a few days back. He was one of the gymnasts who created a new style in high jump. He was the first one to create a world record which remained unsurpassed for a long time. And everybody now who competes at the highest level use the Dick Fosbury style. Maybe some of you who are aware might remember it. Some of you who are not, Google for Dick Fosbury would get a history of that individual. And this guy was not a high jumper. He was a gymnast who got converted to high jump, and he used the principles of gymnastics to develop a new style. Perhaps paper sector should interact with somebody who are farthest from us, who are part of the family. Yes, we should discuss with them, but then look at alternatives, look at innovative opportunities from perhaps other sectors. So with these three requests to the panelists, I would request all of them to share how to go high growth beyond that 6% opportunities. Number two, how to make use of environmental sustainability as an opportunity for creating newer markets. How to bring in diversity, inclusion and collaboration to the paper sector. Apart from all the other points, I would request you to kindly consider this. Maybe we have about an hour and 10 minutes. I would request each of the panelists perhaps to take about 5 or 6 minutes to make your initial remarks. I would request you to do it either from the place where you sit, or if you are comfortable, come to the stage, whichever you think is comfortable to you. And after that, we would take questions from the audience. I think I would start with, as Mr. Goyal has very beautifully brought in this panel. Panel is a combination of both experience, expertise, and energy. Maybe I will request the person who has come from a long distance to talk to us, Mike, to start with his remarks on how the paper industry can grow in the next decade. The paper industry and the trades can grow in the next decades. Over to you, Mike. Thank you.
Okay now? Yes, thank you. Firstly, thank you very much for the invitation, and it is my pleasure to be here. Looking around the panel and looking around the room, I think I'm the only non-Indian now. so my perspective is going to be a little bit from outside of India. So if you bear with me on that, and I'll give you my comments on what I see particularly happening in other parts of Asia. Our company operates throughout Asia, so I've got a view from there. The first thing I want to touch on is ESG. We've all heard about ESG. There's a lot of talk about ESG. I think if I'm being honest with you, for our own company, we weren't really too focused on it till about 2 or 3 years ago. And then the reality struck home that as a chemical company, we have to take this seriously. And what we found also was our customers are really looking at us, looking at our ESG credentials. If they want us to be a supplier to them, we must meet their standards. So my first point, if anyone in this room thinks that ESG is just a box-ticking exercise, I can assure you it's not. It's being led particularly by the big brands, huge companies, McDonald's or Palmolive Colgate or any of these big companies who are making statements in their report and accounts about what their sustainability goals are throughout their company. And to achieve those goals, they need to come all the way through their supply chain down to their packaging supplies and things like that. And they will be held accountable to achieving the goals and the commitments that they've made. Of course, sometimes there's a cost involved, but most of the actions we've taken in our company to improve our sustainability have given us a return on investment. So it's not just, as I say, a box-ticking exercise. It really is something that can add value to your company. We're working in, as an example, we've helped paper mills in the Middle East and in Indonesia, where they've really worked on the water closure, and they're getting down to 4 meter cube per ton of paper now. So it's a real financial return, and it's also a return on investment for the environment. And so from our point of view as a chemical company, we've always talked to our customers about a return on investment. If you spend $1,000 with us and we help to save water, improve efficiency, what is the return in dollars? But now what we're talking to our customers, yes, of course, about the return on investment in dollars, but we're saying, how can we help you reach your sustainability goals? And I think that's a very, very important point. A couple of meetings I've had this week, clearly the companies, the paper mills in India have taken this on board and have their own sustainability goals that they're trying to achieve. Another factor with this is, I say, it's just not just talk or box ticking. It really adds value to companies. Or I'd put it the other way, if you have poor ESG credentials, the value of your company is lower. Your share price could be lower. Your credit rating could be lower. If you go to the bank for a loan, they will not be so positive from that point of view. Just move on to quickly another totally different subject that hasn't been touched on, I think, much over the last couple of days, but everybody knows about is the move away from single-use plastic. I mean, this really is going to be a huge opportunity for the pulp and paper industry. Currently, about 40% of all packaging is plastic-based, and about 30% is paper or fiber-based. That's going to change, and that's going to change rapidly, and then change in favor of the paper industry. So that's an opportunity and a challenge for everybody in this room, I think, to pick up. Just think about this. 500 billion plastic cups are made every year. 260 billion paper cups with a plastic laminate are made every year. With the laminated paper cups, less than 1% are recycled. Just that alone is a massive market if we can crack that and remove all this plastic from our supply chains. The emergence of online food delivery is accelerating the need for these cups and also for paper-based food containers. Just to give you an example, in Europe, Coca-Cola have removed the traditional shrink wrap paper packaging around their Coca-Cola cans and replaced it with fiber-based packaging. So far, that's removed 1.3 million tons of plastic, and they've used 550 million fiber-based packaging units. So that's what's happening in Europe. Someone, I think earlier today, touched on PFAS, or sometimes called forever chemicals. The authorities are moving to, really, they're going to be banned. They are banned in some areas. And again, that creates a massive opportunity for barrier coatings if we can work together to replace those horrible, horrible chemicals. That's a massive opportunity. So that, I think, is probably the biggest thing out there in the marketplace. If you think over, we're talking about the growth over the next 10 years, that's a fantastic opportunity. Again, a totally different subject. I'm just throwing some things out that might get some discussion or people thinking, is a concept called chemical leasing. As a chemical supplier, what do? We supply chemicals to our customers in drums. You pay for that chemical in the price per kilogram, typically. Industries are moving away from that, where as a supplier, we're not paid on the cost of the chemical. We're paid on the performance that we deliver for that customer. So it's a totally switching around. So it forces the customer and the supplier to really work together and look at the performance, look at what we are achieving, and how can we achieve that performance. We then both benefit from that, and actually what we're also then doing is trying to use less chemicals. So it's a win for the customer or the paper mill. It's a win for the chemical supplier. And again, from an environmental point of view, if we're using less chemicals, of course, that's a very positive step forward. It takes a change in mindset because we need to really work out what the return is and how that balance is and how that return is shared. But if we can get over that hurdle, it's a very positive way forward. It is being used particularly in food and drinks businesses for cleaning systems and coating cans and things like that. You tell me when I've had it. Can I do one more quick one? Okay. I just want to touch on innovation. The industry needs to be a leader rather than a follower. To be frank with you, all too often as a supplier, when we are trying to bring new ideas, new technology, we ask for case studies that mirror my mill. I want a case study with a machine my size, with a pulp that I use, and with the water supply that's the same as mine. And the reality is it's never going to happen. And by the time we get there, it's not now new technology. It's being used in many other companies. And I just want to tell you a very quick sort of story, or it's a cartoon I used to have on my desk. As a salesman, you often get rejected. And it's a picture of a medieval knight who's going to go into battle. And he's in a tent, and his servant is putting his armor on and putting his helmet on, and he's got a massive lance, and he's about to go into battle. And outside the tent is a salesman. And his servant says, "Sire, there's a servant who wants, a salesman who wants to see you." he says, "Can't you see I'm going to war? I haven't got time to see a salesman." And the salesman outside is holding a machine gun. And we sometimes feel if only the customer would listen, we know we can help them. So I encourage you to really look at when suppliers come and talk to you, look positively that they're trying to help. As suppliers, we don't want to waste our time and we don't want to waste your time. So we will already have filtered out the accounts or the applications that we do not think will work by the time we come and talk to you. Is that enough for now?
Yeah, thank you. I think a big hand for Mike. He made all the right points. He said environment return on investment is extremely good. That's how his own company has benefited. Just to give you an example, when we started with green building in 2003, they were about 20% more expensive. Over a period of time, the expenses started coming down. Right now, believe me, if you construct a new building and if it is a green building, the initial costs are about 2% lower. So one is, it's not only saves on the operating costs, it saves even on the initial investment costs. So there is a short-term benefit, there is a medium-term benefit, there is a long-term benefit. So environment is the way to go. The another important point which he said about the replacement of single-use plastic, you know, one of the largest and fastest growing sectors in India are the quick service restaurants. Quick service restaurants are growing anything between 18 to 24%. These are large consumers of plastic. So they are doubling in next 3 to 4 years of time. If there is an opportunity for us to work with this sector, there could be a substantial opportunity to grow the paper demand and growth. Thank you, Mike, for all your point. Thank you very much. May I now request another senior person who has been here, Mr. Siddharth Mohanty. You have been one part of a group which has created, what should I say, one of the trailblazers of the Indian, not only the paper sector, entire Indian corporate. You are perhaps the first one to become net zero in terms of carbon, water, waste positive, so many credentials. How did you do this? And what is it that you can, or you have done, could be taken up by the entire sector, including the small and medium size? Over to you, sir. 6 to 7 minutes. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. When the topic is coming, there is a growth for the next decade. So always the growth has to be profitable. If the growth is not profitable, that is not a growth. So the growth in India, like when you look at a growth, there are two types of growth. One is investment based, one is a consumption based. So India growth is based on the consumption. So when we look into that paper consumption, and growth is coming based on the consumption, we need to work out how to improve the consumption. Because there is no investment-based growth, so there is no intense market competitions. So we are from these preface, we have to move ahead. And coming on to that, first point is we have to be a cost competitiveness. In the cost competitiveness, the first thing is we have to entrench our raw material strategy. To entrench, there are 3 different types of the raw material we use. One is the waste paper. Then industry together has to come out to work on a strategy. How do we collect the waste paper and use the waste paper in the industry? So, because that is the major input cost to the industry. The second is the wood. The wood is that it is a farm forestry. The industry need to be work with the farmer, which has to be a win-win between the farmer, community and the society. So then only the farmer will come for growing the more woods and the wood is available. Another is there are mills which is the agricultural residue. We need to have a watch because if we look into that, the India is saying the next level of staple food is the millet. The millet is coming as a superfood. It needs less water. So look into that. The water guzzle, the sugar cane, what is going to happen? If there is a drop in the sugar cane, if there is a drop in rice or wheat production, how it is going to be impacted us? So we start looking at and monitor the agricultural trend and see that we have to entrench our raw material strategy. That is one of the foremost things we need to be addressed to be a cost competitiveness. The second is in the cost to be the technology. We have to continuously upgrade the technology to be at par with the quality of the international standard. The technology comes with an investment. Because investment, it is a capital and the industry is the capital intense industry. So we must look into that, the asset utilization. We have to sweat the asset as much as possible to ensure that the industry is able to take out the best out of the product. Then coming to the next, the digital technology. Today, the AI ML, it has been largely adopted in different industry, which optimize the operating parameter and the performance, which reduce the consumption and gives the higher throughput. Through that route, the cost competitiveness can come in that. Then last factor is because our vendor or the suppliers. The suppliers always we try to work, negotiate or try to see the price. Instead, the industry is to start working with them as a co-creation. We have to co-create and build up a capability, the chemicals or other items we are using in the industry. So together, we are able to get a value to both the organizations. So the co-creation of creating a capability is more important. So that will add, so that is one of the actions industries will look forward to take for the cost competitiveness. Then coming on to the customer, the value proposition for the customer. So we all talk about the plastic substitution. The plastic substitution is a big market. But are we ready? To get it ready, the point is we have to create an industry task force. The industry task force in the paper industry together, instead of looking at who is developing the plastic substitution product, together we should work with the company and see that, well, the company is the user company, and see that how we can, together we produce and go into the plastic substitution, which is a big market, because that is a growth strategy. If we are talking about 6% growth, to take it the 10% growth, we have to go to an area where we are not present. Instead of looking of organic growth, we have to go for an inorganic growth and create a new market for that. So the third part is coming, already being talked on that, the green credential. We have to continuously look to our renewable energy, decarbonization, and how to use the different biomass for our power generation. Because that is what it has to bring us the net zero, and also the water consumption. The water consumption, the industry has come down close to 30 meter cube per ton of paper. And with the partnership with another vendors and our partners, we have to look forward. The different partnership is able to reduce the water. So that is in the green credential. The last thing is the human capital. The industry today is shortage of the human capital. And how do we grow it? The industry to come out, we have a body like IPTA. So the IPTA, can we create the human capital, train the people, mostly on the technology, and different company is getting a different technology. So somebody is getting a X technology, somebody Y, how do we pass the knowledge and see that the human capital in the country is growing up? With the human capital growing in the country, then only we will have the much superior performance in terms of a cost, quality, and other advantage in that. So these are all the 4 critical parameters we feel. If the industry will start looking into this parameter, then we will have a profitable growth in the coming decades. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mohanty. A big hand to you. I think one very, very important point he said, the industry should come together to tackle 2 things. One is in terms of the raw material availability. 2 is in terms of the replacement of plastic. If the industry together could come out with a strategy for tackling both of them. I think many of you are individually doing, many of you perhaps in some groups are still working at it, but the industry as a whole can come together and work on it. Perhaps the impact could be much higher, a larger market could be tapped. He spoke about competitiveness through technology. Thirdly, a very important point in terms of people. I think that's what is going to make the difference in the years to come. Again, another CII example. CII Tirupur is a textile cluster. The cluster is looking at doubling their overall turnover from 50,000 crores to about 100,000 crores. All of the companies together all of them in Tirupur are working together in making this 50,000 crores to 100,000 crores in the next 5 to 6 years of time. One of the important points which they say is in terms of availability of quality manpower. This is one where they feel the market is not an issue because they already have captured a substantial European market and more is coming up. Second, in terms of money availability for them. Cash is available internally for investment, as well as many of them are willing to invest. Only thing which they are lacking is in terms of quality manpower for scaling it up. Maybe another area where the industry together, IPTA and other bodies should work together, is perhaps in terms of developing quality manpower for the growth of the sector. And lastly, he also mentioned about AI ML. I think now is the right time to shift to our other panelists, the lone women panelist of this group, Ms. Priya Venkat. Over to you, please. A big hand to Mr. Mohanty, and then a big hand to welcome Ms. Priya for this panel and seek her views. Ma'am, apart from whatever you speak, we have about 250 people here, out of which about 240 would be men. How do you make it 50% in the next, not in 2023 or 24 IPTA, perhaps 2030 IPTA program? Is there a way to make it 50% women? Over to you, please.
Thank you, thank you. It's really an honor and pleasure to be part of this discussion. I truly believe that, the gender bias is almost getting to a point where I don't see that anymore. Especially in the tech industry, it's just not there. But I do see that a lot in this industry, which is the pulp and paper segment or steel and all of that. But recently I have noticed that a lot of young girls, they choose to be part of these heavy industry because they carry pride in being, like, they want to take it more like, hey, what is it that we cannot do, right? They are open for those challenges, and we have hired a lot of talent from the industry. So I see that by just encouraging and being the support system is important. We got to hear them out. They definitely have a lot more ideas. So I think that's definitely going to be a big game changer. So that's on the talent and where, women can play a significant role. Now coming to some of the topics that we touched today about how AI, ML can play a significant role in this industry. So when we started our company, it's been a bit of a challenge to tell everybody that, hey, you know what? A software can do your job, so you can do whatever you're doing better. So instead of having the talent pool figuring out the problems in the operations, you can give those problems to the software. The software will take care of your problem. You can focus on making your product better. So what that means is you will have intelligent dosing of chemicals. It will dose what is really required. You don't overdose. You don't put stress on your system. And at the same time, what does it result for the company, right? You have optimized way of running your business. So your costs are coming down. You can use the same amount of capital, invest somewhere else. But the challenge that I see in the industry is, of course, the large enterprises are very adaptable to the technology, but there is the mid segment which also needs to make this effort. So it's more around sharing data is what I see as a concern. They're like, hey, how do we share our information? It's all on the software, so how can we do that? But you got to trust. I just like to give this example. So UPI. Earlier we would only deal with cash, or we would go to the bank and do transactions. Today, everybody blindly trusts UPI, right? People don't need to carry credit cards. You take your mobile phone, you're able to make all payments. Every transaction is taken care. So I think it's time that the industry also starts thinking that, hey, we got to adapt to whatever the tech that's available, artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, share the data, so it's a win-win for both. Like, the industry, the company gets benefited, you're making more profits, you're able to put your talent to the best use. So your next question around was like, how do we grow at a faster pace, right? So tech is definitely going to enable that growth, because if the operation problems are taken care by the software, you have enough brain space and bandwidth to think and make your product much, much superior. You can enter newer markets, newer segments. Now, like what Mohanty said, it's about, the molded fiber. Now, so you got to think and prepare what is required maybe 10, 15 years from now. Now, this industry, this pulp and paper industry, I think has already started thinking about green stuff, green energy for a very long time. but it's now coming into light and the tech is enabling it. So, I mean, I think that that's there, and most women are very comfortable working even in the technology space, not just in the industrial space, right? So that's going to enable to bridge this gap to your point of, you know, how do we have a lot more women participating and being part of this sessions.
Thank you, thank you. A big hand for Priya, one, for participating in this program. And yeah, AI and ML can be an enabler so that your time is better available for doing something, something much beyond. And another important point which she made is that women nowadays are ready to take on jobs in the hardcore sectors. Just give you an example, I think I spoke about it in last IPTA seminar too. JSW Tornagallu near Bellary, a blast furnace 5-ton molten metal is being unloaded by a young girl sitting in a control room. I mean, this is something which is considered to be a macho job once upon a time, where a hot environment of 700, 800 degrees centigrade. So with the advent of technology, you are inside a control room, you have a panel which the blast furnace is very clearly visible. The blast furnace tapping at about 1350 degrees or 1400 degrees centigrade is being done by a young woman. So substantial, all the control room operators in JSW are women. Bajaj Auto, one of the plants near Aurangabad, about 30 to 40% of the people who are working on the shop floor are women. There are definitely opportunities of getting women more and more involved. Thank you, Priya. Thank you for being here, and a big hand to you for all the points which you made. Probably taking things a little beyond. One of the difficulties is paper sector is located in remote areas. It's difficult for men as well as women to go and work there. Is there a way with AI and ML, perhaps have the entire control room of Bhadrachalam been located in Hyderabad high-tech city? Could be an opportunity which perhaps is worth exploring in future. Thank you. Thanks again. Now let's go to the hardcore young man from the paper sector. Over to you, Akshat, for your views on the growth opportunities and what all we can do. Over to you, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, IPTA, for the opportunity provided to me to express my views on the industry. Today, I would like to share my thoughts on how the mill can adopt itself to the changing demands of the paper industry, how the paper mills can use this as an opportunity to grow their market with respect to the finished products which they make. Last 2-3 years, we have seen a lot of mills which have come up in the kraft paper segment with huge capacities of maybe up to 600 to 700 tons per day. This calls for standardization of the products that we make, and instead of making paper based on BF, so many qualities based on BF, we require to shift to the international system of paper based on fluting and testliner, which correlate more with the board properties, like testliner is sold based on SCT. So, and also there needs to be a standardization with respect to the real widths. Right now, in our kraft paper industries, we sell paper with real widths with the difference of every 1 centimeter. So that needs to be changed, and more standard system need to be followed. This will help the mills to improve their efficiency and compete with the international market. With the Government of India initiative of Make in India, there has been a lot of companies which are setting up their manufacturing plants in India and using this as a base to sell their products overseas. So this calls for the packaging also to meet the international standards. There have been concerns regarding the foul smell which is being generated from the kraft paper mills in India. The basic issue is because of poor ETP designs and the zero liquid discharge permissions which they have from their PCBs. A lot of steps have been taken recently. Even yesterday, we have seen a lot of very good presentations on how the technology can be used to eliminate the bad odor in ZLD plants. And a lot of work is going on, and I'm sure within a short span of time, we'll be able to find some solution for that. Another factor which is affecting, which is important to control is the amount of long fiber which is present in our finished product. Most of the mills in India are recycled base, and even the material or recovered fiber which is coming from US and Europe is becoming weak, or the amount of long fiber is reducing continuously because of recycling mills coming up in those countries. So we need to find a way how we can infuse some long fiber into our paper, maybe by using more of virgin pulp or other pulp wood substitutes like straw or bagasse. And maybe some technologies like adding a glue pack which can improve the tear, or which can act as a substitute to the long fiber might help. Another segment, I would like to discuss a few points on how the new markets are opening up. Like the microflutes have started gaining a lot of importance, and they are competing with monocartons. The E flute and the F flutes are finding their applications in cosmetics, confectionaries, and household chemicals, all those items, etc. So this is because of the excellent print capabilities. So the mills need to, this requires a lower GSM and smooth finish on paper. So, and the white test liners are also finding applications in the sector, which the mills can use this as an opportunity. Another application is the barrier coated papers. We have seen like a lot of seafood, the fruit and vegetable trays, the sugar and flour packaging, which is being exported, and the contents need to be protected from external moisture. So the barrier coating paper is another segment where there is a huge increase in demand, and that can be looked as one aspect where mills can target. And as discussed by other panelists earlier, like how we can increase the share of, how we can increase the growth in paper industry of paper-related products. One breakthrough could be in replacing flexible packaging with paper-based packaging. There has been a lot of research and development being done in this sector, where the primary packaging, which is with the flexible packaging, can be replaced by paper-based packaging. There are challenges in this with respect to the tear strength, what we want to achieve, and the aesthetic look of paper-based packaging when compared to the flexible packaging, and also the barrier coating, which needs to further improve so that we can enter this segment. So overall, if the mills can adapt to the changing requirements, I definitely think there is a very good market which is opening up, and the future looks really bright for our industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Akshat. Thank you for that positive note. Thank you very much. Some important points which Akshat made: standardization, smell from paper plant. This is one which creates a perception of the for the entire sector. You know, once you have a perception amongst public, then the sector as a whole suffers. Again, to give you an example from cement industry, Times of India, whenever they have an article on cement, they always have a person in lungi carrying a cement bag at the back. So the industry is working towards making that change. Similarly, if there is a smell, the overall public perception changes, and the public perception is extremely important in the medium term and long term. I completely agree with you on raw material issue. Again, another important point which you made, where the industry should work together to address the raw material issue, additional opportunities in terms of cosmetics, vegetable, food, flexible packaging replacement. Excellent points, Akshat. Thank you very much. A big hand to him. May I now request Akshay for his views, please. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for making me a part of this panel discussion. There are immense opportunities for the packaging sector to grow and grow green and grow sustainably with sustainability. Yesterday, I was in the inaugural address. I was listening to one of the speakers, and some statistics were, thrown at us. The per capita consumption of paper in India is about 15 kgs, likely to grow to over 30 kgs in the next few years, whereas the global average today is close to 60 kgs. So, these numbers itself, present the scope that is there for the Indian paper industry to grow. Now, the growth will come from, two areas. One is domestic consumption and the other is exports. Now, with the government of India objective of, achieving $5 trillion GDP in the next couple of years, and we are already at $3 trillion today. So, in the next few years, we see a big opportunity coming our way. The global supply chain, India is getting more integrated with the global supply chain. Manufacturing base is shifting to India, and with that, we have immense opportunities. As far as exports is concerned, in the last few years, 4 or 5 years, we have seen that, paper, especially the packaging paper, can be exported. Just to give you an idea of what could be achieved, in the last 2-3 years, during the pandemic years, we have seen exports of fluting medium and test liner touching almost 2.2 lakh tons per month. And this happened for several months. It was not just 1 or 2 months. However, the exports could not sustain, for various reasons. And again, as has already been pointed out, there were certain issues like bad odor in paper, some logistics issues, runnability, and mainly related to quality. So if we work on these aspects, there is immense opportunity for the Indian packaging industry to export. We have seen India exporting to Far East, to Middle East, to Latin America, and to African countries. The exports that happened were more out of compulsion than out of choice because of China shifting its policy on raw material imports. So, however, for us to sustain these exports, we need to work on quality. And from this discussion, one cannot emphasize enough on odor elimination. And I think since yesterday we've had a lot of deliberation on how bad odor could be eliminated. So if this one aspect we are able to find a solution, so there is immense opportunity for the Indian packaging industry to export. Now, regarding the green initiatives, let me talk about the craft and the recycle-based MSME segment of this industry, paper manufacturing, where we have specific power consumption of under 300 kWh per ton of paper, where we have specific water consumption of less than 2 meter cube per ton of paper. And I think the MSME segment has already achieved numbers which, which are not very easy to digest. There are areas in energy where a lot can be done and a lot is being done. Installation of rooftop solar plants, using biomass as fuel. More and more mills are using turning to biomass as a fuel. alternate fuels. Now, with the Swachh Bharat mission, we see a lot of emphasis on garbage collection and processing in not only just in municipal corporation limits, but also at the Gram Panchayat level. And the garbage that is being processed, that can be used to convert waste to energy. And I think there are some government initiatives which are promoting, which are already funding the local Gram Panchayats and corporations to collect more and more waste and turn it into energy. Recycled, this waste paper-based mills, one of the solid waste is the plastic that is being generated. Now that a trend has started where, the state pollution control boards have started giving permission to incinerate plastic within within their own premises, in their own boilers with some safety, with some safeguards. So this is also being done. I think regular energy audits is one area where, if mills keep conducting the regular energy audits, specific power consumption and energy consumption can further come down. So maybe, a systemic approach like implementation of energy management system and, maybe integrated management system, this will help in further reducing the energy bill. Now, how all this can be achieved. So with a systemic approach, I just mentioned about implementation of, some certifications, implementation of systems like integrated management, TPM. Now, I had the opportunity to visit ITC Bhadrachalam a few years ago, and I was really amazed and I was really surprised to see the level of TPM implementation which ITC had done. And it was not just done, it was done in true letter and spirit. So if the MSME segment can adopt a similar approach, I think, we'll again go a long way in truly becoming world class. UNIDO has already taken an initiative, and they are collaborating with mills in different regions and trying to improve the productivity. We require huge capital to adopt latest technology. However, adopting systems, it does not require a lot of money, but it requires the right mindset. And with this, I think this is a low-hanging fruit. And with this, at least the medium MSME segment can benefit a lot. Now, my friend Akshat mentioned about fiber deficiency. So India is a fiber deficient country, and we are dependent on imports of secondary fiber to meet our fiber requirement. Recently, I think about 2 years ago, the government of India imposed customs duty on import of waste paper. So I think with the help of IPTA, or if a task force could be made to, could be formed to make a representation to the government that this duty, if it wasn't there for a good 10-15 years, if this duty could be done away with, that will really help in bringing down the fiber cost. I also understand that in its effort to increase the green cover and to double farmers' income, government of India is promoting bamboo plantation. And government has reclassified bamboo from wood to grass category. So now the cultivation and harvesting of bamboo is easier than before. Maybe it's a far-fetched idea, but if a cluster-based approach is adopted to set up bamboo-based pulp mills in regions. Now government is promoting various clusters in various different industries. So, for the MSME industry to set up a pulp mill individually is not possible. it's, it's cost prohibitive. But if a cluster-based approach is adopted, maybe, you know, this will help in securing more primary fiber. And now we are discussing about, you know, green, you know, going green. But it's quite ironical that the paper industry is categorized as a red category industry by the Ministry of Environment and by the CPCB. So especially the, you know, if you looking at the water consumption figures, looking at the energy figures, steam consumption figures, I think at least the recycled paper manufacturing segment could be, if not green, it could be moved to orange from red. IPTA, I think, you know, a task force could be formed to look into this aspect, at least for the recycle-based manufacturing segment. And you know, this will really go a long way in ease of doing business for the recycle-based industry. So a representation could be made to GEOI. I know it is a difficult task, but this will really help the industry move ahead. And now I think the society as a whole is moving towards honest compliance, wherein, you know, you don't wait for, you know, some external agency, some government authority to come and enforce compliance on you. I think the society at large is maturing and moving towards honest compliance. So certain things should be left to industry. The guidelines could be laid out, but you know, for us to be really a green industry, I think it's about time that we start talking about moving from red to at least orange category. So with this, I conclude my remarks. Thank you, sir.
Brilliant, very well. Thank you very much. One of the important points which he mentioned is in terms of self-compliance or self-honest compliance. I think that's the way things are going globally. You become, you certify that you are compliant, but then if in one of the rare inspections, if you are not found to be compliant, the penalties are extremely severe. That's how the entire Europe and North America are progressing. It's good that it comes from one of the entrepreneurs of paper sector. Correct, sir? I completely agree with you. There is a need to improve the brand image of the entire sector. Perhaps two things have to be done. One, we have to be completely environment compliant as well as friendly, number one. And then we have to demonstrate, show, create a brand image for the entire sector. I think both of them have to be, the optics is the one which is finally important, but then inherently we should become environmentally sustainable. All the water issues, everything we should address, take care of it, and then go and shout from the rooftop saying that how environmentally compliant we are, environmentally friendly we are. Thank you very much, Akshay. You also made a very positive note about the various export opportunities. Mr. Hardik Saab, your views on.
Good afternoon, everybody. Firstly, I would like to thank IPTA for giving me this opportunity. Very quickly, I would like to touch on 3-4 aspects that a mid and a small level industry can do to achieve the growth that we are targeting and to have a sustained growth. So one problem that we have is about stability and the stability that which we can give to our customers. Today, what is happening in the raw material scenario that due to the deficiency of fiber in the system, we have waste paper people holding us to ransom on daily basis. Because we are a fiber deficit country, we rely mostly on local procurement, which is of course an unorganized sector, and of course imported fiber that comes into the system. But then there is a lead time of around 60 days or 90 days for which the fiber has to come. And during this time, we completely rely on the local procurement system and they hold us to ransom. by not supplying, by increasing the prices, by jacking up the prices. And in turn, we don't end up giving a sustained and a stable market for stable pricing for our customers. So what this creates is this creates an uncertainty for the end customer. And because of this, we end up losing sectors altogether. So to say, the shrink packaging came into the picture only because the craft paper industry was not able to offer a sustained pricing. You see Coca-Cola doing shrink packaging now, you see Bisleri doing shrink packaging now. We lost altogetherly a sector to shrink packaging because we were not able to offer a sustained pricing. So one aspect that the industry altogether has to work is how can we increase the availability of the fiber? Because once the demand and supply gap in the fiber sector is sorted, then probably we'll be able to offer a sustained pricing to our customers. And once the sustained pricing to our customers is offered, probably there is a better growth to double the figures that we are talking right now. Because to double the figures, we would want market. And for the market to come, we would want the customer to believe that, yes, this is a stable market. Today, the way we offer prices, it is like we do in a metal market. कि भाई आज का तेरा भाव क्या है, आज का मेरा भाव ये है. So that is how the metal market works, and today that is how at least the mid segment and a lower segment craft mill is working, which we don't want to do because we want a sustained market for our customers too. So maybe there's a leaf or two that we can take from the plastic market where the system is very transparent. They have a long-term pricing contract which we also want to offer to our customer. So that is one aspect. And second aspect is of course at the operational front. Because we lack a lot of talent acquisition. Like rightly sir pointed that we don't have a lot of people coming into our system, lot of young talent not coming to the system. The famous Indian household name, Sharma ji ka beta. तो शर्मा जी का बेटा TCS ज्वाइन करेगा, Infosys ज्वाइन करेगा, Microsoft ज्वाइन करेगा, पर पेपर इंडस्ट्री ज्वाइन नहीं करेगा. So this brings me to another aspect of bad press that has been generated for the paper industry. Look at the average age in this hall. The average age group, I mean, if I take the mean average of the age in this hall, it is close to what, 45? So, which is actually very bad for an industry to have. If this would have been a tech meeting, we would have the average group to be around what, 25 to 30? And here it is 45. So for last 15 years or for last 10 years, we have failed to attract young talent. And if you are failing to attract young talent, then your industry is going nowhere. So one thing that our industry lacks today is good press. Why can't ITC have Deepika Padukone holding the copier paper on a hoarding? You have to be flamboyant. You have to break the shackles. You cannot just sit and talk about going green or this is what we are doing to go green. You need the world to look at you. And for the world to look at you, you have to break the shackles. And that is where the industry leaders can do that. You need a voice in the market saying that, boss, we are here. And once you have somebody looking at you, you will have young people want to join your industry. Today, if I want a good paper tech, all I do is I just make few calls. I find out who is working in Vijayanand. I find out who is working in Kega, or I find out who is working in a contemporary industry and try and pull that person. And so what am I getting? I am just getting a mix of an experience, what is experienced in X industry, Y industry, and Z industry. So where is the young talent coming into the system? So for us to achieve that amount of growth, what we should ideally target is that next 10 years, down the line, probably 5 years, the average age of this hall, if it is coming down by 5 years or 10 years, probably then we can achieve our growth or we can double our growth. So we need flamboyancy in our industry. We need to add that glitz and glamour to the industry. See, we have Hrithik Roshan selling Flamingo belt. I don't know how many people have seen, but I have seen it in TV. It is a neck support belt which is selling. I mean, why would you want to sell a neck support belt? But Hrithik Roshan is doing that. The other day I was seeing Z News and I saw a broomstick ad coming into the... So guys, broomstick is also being advertised. So yes, so it is high time that we put ourselves right there in front of the media and say we are there to attract the right talent. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, brilliant. Two important points. One is the stability of raw material. The second is how to get people. Third is brand value. Thank you, Hrithik Saab. Now we go to a totally different set of people. Asim Saab, who has been part of the trading community, please do. We look forward to your views, please. Please come.
Friends, I bring to you all greetings and best wishes of more than 6,000 members being paper traders and are part of the Federation of Paper Traders Association of India, the apex body of the paper traders in India. We are in the process of reaching out to around 4,000 traders to join our fold. The trade continues to change and evolve with times. Though our numbers have come down, the resultant consolidation has enabled overall increase in volume in terms of quantity and value. The volume as a percentage of domestic production has also increased. The average volume per trader has also moved upwards in both value and quantity. Presently, there are a significant number of traders having a turnover of over 1 lakh tons per annum. These numbers continue to grow. The trade continues to reinvent and reposition itself. The trade is unlearning and relearning to manage risk and volatility. There are a few factors in addition to short cycles of cyclicality that has led to increased volatility. The overall risk has increased. Bad and doubtful outstandings along with NPAs are impacting the financial health of the traders. The increased requirement of self-funded capital is increasing financial stress. The age-old loyalty-based relationship is shifting more towards a transactional relationship between the manufacturers and the traders. The trade is relooking its game plan. It is now approaching in a disciplined manner to understand, monitor, analyze, and prepare itself to face the risk of volatility and cyclicality. It is also putting in efforts to upgrade the skills and knowledge of the traders. Present-day rewards of the trade are not in proportion with the risks involved. The percentage of traders, the perception of a trader being a mere middleman only has become irrelevant. The trader is a market maker, a game changer, and now a financer also. The trade of the future shall be based on the principles of 3 R's: respect, recognition, and rewards. The trade is more than willing to take the first steps, provided the relationship is based on trust and mutually beneficial to both the parties. With the technological advancement in paper manufacturing, printing, and converting, the technical parameters of quality have changed, and yet we still pursue with the legacy norms. The quality differentiation is difficult based on the nomenclatures and given names used. Also, there exists an anomaly of the norms between the different government agencies. There should be one uniform acceptable paper trade customs acceptable to all stakeholders. FPTA has taken the initiative of promoting and communicating with the users of paper and the society in general to remove their doubts and myths about paper by celebrating National Paper Day annually on August 1st. We appeal to all stakeholders to join hands and cooperate in the upgradation of quality parameters, uniform nomenclatures with standard physical and chemical attributes, and also a common data and statistical base. The stakeholders should also participate in celebrating the National Paper Day. We request all the stakeholders to act unitedly and communicate in a more effective and forceful manner towards ending the greenwashing of paper and its products. Thank you.
Thank you, Asim Saab. Thank you. You are on behalf of 6,000 traders. He spoke about how they are market makers, game changers, and also financiers now. Trust and collaboration is something which he spoke about extensively amongst all the stakeholders. Standardization, another area, so we are all very clear. Thank you once again. Let me now turn to Mr. Madurai Desarda for his views, please. You know, in argumentative Indian, Amartya Sen says that we are one of the people who speak a lot. Indians speak a lot. The record for the longest speech in UN goes to an Indian, V.K. Krishnamenon. He spoke, it seems, for 13 hours non-stop. Somewhere in the middle, he fainted, and somebody sprinkled water on him. He got up and started speaking again. So, Goyal Saab, kindly excuse us. Maybe we'll take another 5 to 10 minutes more with questions from the audience. Over to you, sir.
So can I just stand here?
Yeah, as you wish. Whichever
So
way.
I got your message directly, indirectly that I have to keep my speech short. So we have full of energy on this dais, and I really thank IPTA to give me this opportunity. I would like to keep my brief really short. After listening to all of the speakers today, I would like to break down my speech in three categories. One is how we can have growth in next decade. Second is how to sustain, and third, how AI, ML, or all these 4.0 fancy stuff will play a role in coming future. So talking about growth, as Mr. Goyal rightly said, I am involved in molded fiber industry from Parasan side from last 4 to 5 years. So I would just like to give you small perspective about that. India more or less has more than 600 to 650 paper mills, and average mill size would be, if you consider small, medium, and large, would be around 150, 200, or up to 300 tons a day. Today, India has 60 molded fiber plants. Average size of the plant is 3 to 4 tons a day. So if you multiply 60 by 4, it is 240 tons per day. I visited couple of plants in China, in US, and in Europe as well. The average plant in China for molded fiber is 250 tons a day. So if you put all molded fiber plants today together in India, that is one molded fiber plant in China. One average plant in China is exporting around 95% of molded fiber products to Europe and US. This industry, molded fiber industry, is made for China and India because it is bit labor intensive, bit capital intensive. We need good fibers. So I believe India has a very good future in this area. Coming from paper industry, if you compare molded fiber industry, it has 90% similarity. It starts with the pulper, cleaners, refiners, intermediate chest, machine chest, consistency transmitters, and then comes the forming process, and then the drying process. So we are already there. But the tragedy is that most of my tableware clients are coming from plastic industry. So my humble request is that before plastic industry takes over this industry again, I was just reading on ChatGPT about molded fiber. This industry will be around $5 billion in next 1 to 2 years. So I believe this will be a very good opportunity for us to enter into this, not only on molded fiber production side, but also on the pulp supply side. So there are another 50, 60 plants coming in India. So any big mill, if we go for bagasse pulp or wheat straw pulp or bamboo pulp, this will be a very good addition in the industry. If we get enough pulp, there will be more plant coming in. And today, we have not even replaced 1% of single-use plastic with these 60 plants. And half of these plants are exporting to Europe and US already. So even if we go for domestic captive consumption, exports, I believe we have a very great opportunity in this area. So on pulp supply side, we can definitely work. On manufacturing side, we can definitely work on this, and it has a very good future. Coming to second point, how to sustain the growth. As we rightly said, Hardik Bhai also said, and Mr. Mohanty also said, that we need youths or we need new people coming in our industry. So I personally believe that it's a high time that we should put enough pressure on good educational institutions to start paper engineering courses. It can start with the elective courses in last year of engineering. We can start with optional practical trainings in paper industry. So there is an infusion of fresh blood in paper industry, and moving forward, we can have right talent. So coming from a technology supplier background, we face the most difficult challenge As you rightly said, if you want to hire someone, you would just go to another paper mill, right? So there are 600 paper mills in India, you can fetch guy from anywhere. But when I go and find the talent, I need a good mechanical engineer. He should also have good process knowledge. He should also have good paper engineering knowledge. So for us, it becomes very difficult. And hence, we rely on our customers to share the right data with us. As Mr. Mohanty said, it's a co-creation. So if you be transparent with your supplier, we can always help you develop new product, understand your pain area. We have capability to understand and develop something new. So as long as you share what are your problems, if you go to a supplier, it's like going to a doctor. Unless you tell them what's the actual problem is, if you don't hide data, then we can definitely come up with the right technological solution. India has that capacity and we should believe in it. Coming to the third point, talking about AI, ML or Industry 4.0, I think as a paper industry, we are far away from that. We need to get our basics right. I was looking at ChatGPT. How many of here use ChatGPT already? Great. So Pradeep sir has used it already. So I was working on it and I put how to improve the sticky removal in paper industry. So as a technology supplier, I was asking the most difficult question that my customers can ask me. So in screening area, how to work on sticky removal. It gave me 15 different points. Then I asked how to reduce power consumption in paper industry. It gave me 10, 15 different points. So I was putting up all these questions and I realized all it can do is answer my questions. It cannot ask a good question. So no matter how much AI ML comes, no matter how much Industry 4.0 comes, no matter how much software industry do progress in this area, but always question remains is what is the right question and what we expect from this technology. So to work on this area, we should always ask right questions. What is our objective? How we can get sustainable? How we can add value to our end customers, and that will solve all of our problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Brilliant, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Kept your time. He said $5 billion molded fiber packaging industry. He spoke about AI and ML. And finally, he said whatever AI, ML, the persons are important. Exactly the same point yesterday, Sania Mirza and Gopi Chand mentioned. Whatever you do with AI and ML, however much coaching you do by seeing the videos and improving your posture or shots, finally the shot has to be delivered on the ground by the individual. So I completely agree with you, Dasap. Last but not the least, over to you, Sanat, for your views before we go to the audience.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, IPTA, for this opportunity to organize this forum so that all the stakeholders come at a single stage and discuss about their problems and what has to be done to move forward so that our industry grows and flourishes as similarly the plastic industry and the other industries are growing. So firstly, as I am the last speaker, my major of the points have been said by many of the other panel speakers. So I'll just summarize few points like sustainability. Sustainability is a myth in people's mind where they say that it's an expensive affair, but with our experience, with our implementations, what we experience is it's a good cost-saving instrument and cost-saving thing to get ahead with. Because in terms of energy, you save a lot of energy time. In terms of labor, if you comply to all the compliances and all the rules and regulations, you attract good talent, because the major reason why IT industry is booming, technology industry is booming, because they are complying to the pay scale, they are complying to all the compliances what a human resource or a human being want as an employee or as an employer. So that's the reason if we comply to the governance of the HR, we comply to the governance of the environment and good working environment, we would definitely attract good talent, and that would definitely, as Hardik Bhai told, we need the average age to be 25 to 30. It will happen. Because what we as a youth, Gen Z, Gen Y people need is good working environment, good stability in the working environment, what we want, and hence it will be done. Now next, as Venkat sir said, how can we grow the industry at an average from 6% to 10 to 15%? We have organic market, we have inorganic market. So currently in India, the average consumption per capita consumption of paper is 15 kg per year. In US, it's 200 kg per year. And now India is having a dual opportunity actually. How dual opportunity? The first is, as the government is taking care of the people, as the corporates are taking care of their people, the purchasing power is increasing. So if the purchasing power increases, the per capita consumption of the packaging, per capita consumption of the quick service restaurants increases. And most of the paper consumption increases when the quick service restaurant flourishes. Secondly, like China individually grew as a manufacturing hub. United States individually grew as a service hub. India is a mixture of both. We are growing as an IT hub, IT power, as well as a manufacturing power. So we are sitting on a dual opportunity where we can increase the per capita consumption as well as the exports and the manufacturing units in India, which will interim increase the production and the consumption of the paper and the packaging which we require. Thank you.
Thank you, brilliant, Sanat. Thank you, thanks a lot. He emphasized on some of the most important points. Compliance. You are good. Automatically, good people will come and join you. Good, and you also proclaim yourself to be good. People will come and join to you. We are a combination of services and manufacturing market. There's a huge opportunity both in terms of local market as well as export market. Thank you all.